Hello, welcome to one of the meadows I look after. Wow, it's looking so good at the moment. I'll give you a quick blast. I know it's quick. If you want to see it, there are other videos. But I thought I'd take this opportunity while it's quiet. It's that purpley pink in spikes there. That's San Juan, I call it. Some people might call it Santhoin. That's what pronunciations are all different, aren't they? Oh, this is a lovely patch. I don't think we've had it quite so magnificent. Look at that. Oh, I'm here. Whoa, look. Where it moves in the breeze. Wow. Anyway, I thought, oh, it's lovely. Sorry I'm not getting to the point here. Look at that. And then here, no orchids yet, but I have seen pictures from other areas of the country and they've got orchids out. We seem to be quite behind here, which is unusual because we're sort of towards the southwest. Look at all these oxeye daisies. And even the bits of grass there on the right look amazing. But you notice there isn't that much grass, and that's because some of that yellow you can see is yellow rattle, which keeps the grass down, which means that more wildflowers can grow. You know, the land is so messed up that, sure, you can spend years, you know, you could do the rewilding experiments, but in the meantime you don't have that. Anyway, it's not what I'm talking about now. I thought I'd wander up to the pond while I chat. Basically, this is part of the manifesting series. Now, I have, in Britain and in most countries, well, I can only speak about Britain, we have a yearly test on our motor vehicles that you must pass in order to remain legal and be able to drive on the road. Well, mine is due very soon. Now, because of what happened in the past few years, I was planning to get searching for another vehicle, but of course that's been made very difficult because of the world situation. So I've put it off. Now my van is now 20 because I don't believe in, you know, I believe in getting one and then looking after it. I mean, I haven't had it all that time, but I've had it 7 or 8 years. Yep. And you know, I do the work, drive it. That's what I do. Now, well, it looks nice. So I'm now at a point where I have 5 weeks or less in order to either get another vehicle or get mine through the test. Now, obviously, seeing as it's 20 years old, I don't want to be spending loads of money on it. But at the same time, I'm going to need it because I have to go to work and get shopping and groceries. Oh, there's a lovely sweet smell here. Oh, beautiful. But also, I've spent the last, I suppose, well, since I had the van, saving up for another one. But it turns out that now prices of things are now 2 to 3 times what they were. So looking at the point of when I got my van, I could now, in theory, I could now get one twice as good. Yeah? But the truth is that I'm only likely to get one as good or less good because of how the world's turning out, which for me is quite, well, it makes me quite angry and pissed off and thinking, look at these blue flowers. No, not thinking, look at these blue flowers, but and thinking, what am I doing? Why? What was the point of all that? I know from knowing other people who do similar work that I do a lot harder work than they do, and I work a lot harder. And if all that was, if we were all given the same amount of money for the same amount of, if they could measure work that you do, and everyone got paid a set amount for doing whatever that is, which would be ideal, but let's not go down that road, then I would be very well paid. But as it is, I'm not. So I have a dilemma of only having, well, 4 to 5 weeks to look for another vehicle, to get another vehicle. But there is a possibility, and this has happened before, but I may not, and then I'd be stuck. So practically I probably should get my van through the test, or at least take it and see what's wrong, and if it's not too much, get the work done, and then while still looking for another van, then when I get another van I can then sell my old one with a year's ticket on it, legal ticket. So that's the plan. So I need to manifest this. So traditionally what happens with me is I go along, I limp around, right, in my vehicles, then something goes wrong, and the timing is nearly always the worst possible timing. You know, I need something desperately fixing, but it's the summer break and things like that. So and then I get stuck, so I hire cars if I can to get to work, or I have to find people to give me lifts to work, or I just rush through this bit, or I just don't go to work, so I lose money. That's traditionally how it goes, and I'm left, you know, and in any case I'll suddenly have a vehicle die or have a stupid accident. Thankfully I haven't had one of those in a while. There's an example of me having to duck wherever I go. So I end up having to just get a vehicle. Now the other problem for me is that any vehicles that I like are now too old to even bother with. Oh hello, it looks like we've got a new path. I haven't been in here for a while. It looks like he's mown, instead of going that way, because the holly's now taken over, we go that way, which is great. So this is the first time you'll have done this, if you've seen this place before. Oh, I like that. That's the D, obviously. So that what I'm looking for doesn't exist. What I want doesn't exist. So I have to get I can't really get what I want, because you know, if I was to get a camper van, they're just now so expensive. And I used to go from camper van to camper van. I've had 3, 4 in a bus, I think. Might be more than that, but and I always have them a long time, till they die usually, which often means involved in an accident. So I need to manifest a vehicle that I can afford, that's going to last me a while and will do everything I need it to in 5 months. So, sorry, in 5 weeks. So normally, like I was saying, normally I panic, but this time I've had a bit of panic and looked. Now I'm just remaining calm, and I've sent the thought out into the universe of kind of ideally what I want, and I'm just going to be patient and look whilst getting mine through the MOT. So, and I can feel that in my centre it's like it feels calm and in touch. So we'll see, won't we? So coming next is the rest of the story. Well, it all sounds so simple, doesn't it? And practical and sensible. So let's throw in some other things. Right, well, it's now complicated, because as soon as you do your vehicle test and it fails, from that moment your vehicle becomes illegal on the road. Which means, should it be a bad fail, then I don't have 5 weeks. I have less than that. Now, some of you may be aware of this and others may not. But also what's happening at the moment is Mercury is retrograde. Now, Mercury retrograde is probably the worst time to be looking for a vehicle, because Mercury affects electrics, devices, communications, travel, letters, emails, speaking, conversations, gossip, and it affects it in a negative way. For example, I know, as soon as I know it's Mercury retrograde, that during that time at least one of my bulbs and a fuse will blow, and I noticed that during this one Instagram's decided to update its app, so that's not going very well for a lot of people. Including them, I should guess, but don't know, because the people behind that are interesting. Anyway, now Mercury retrograde, basically it's only Mercury appearing from the Earth to be going backwards, and it takes 3 weeks for it to go back before it starts coming forward again. So what that means is, it then takes 3 weeks to go back, 3 weeks to go forward, means 6 weeks before it's back to normal. So it doesn't just affect you during the time it's going back, it affects you in the time going forward as well. So there you go. Of all the times I could have chosen, I have to go and pick this one. Well, so far I'm drawing a blank on finding a van. seems to be nothing. I've made inquiries and no one has got back to me. Now there's pretty much a Mercury in retrograde demonstration in action. Not to mention that I've had electrical issues with fuses blowing, bulbs blowing, and things like that, kettles breaking. It really does make loads of difference. And now I'm having possible communication issues or miscommunication issues. Wow, 10 months later, and this all looks a bit different, and I finally have a van. But what I also have are some coincidental stories. I think coincidental story probably, but so, shall I begin? There has never been this many here. Well, first of all, my brother very kindly took me to some important jobs, and then in November he loaned me a car. Now, when we got over to, he came and picked me up, and we drove over to the house where we grew up, because that's where the car was. And as we went there, well, actually a few months before, we'd been to visit our mother. He'd given me a lift, and we got there, and when we got there, a fire engine went up the road with its lights flashing and horn going. Now, the strange thing about that, the coincidental, and it went up to the park, which is a few doors from where we grew up. Now, in case you don't know, my father designed and commissioned and looked after and maintained all the fire brigade vehicles for this county for 19 years. And this was actually the first time that me and my brother had gone to the house where we grew up together. And yeah, that happened. So we went up to the park, because that's where we used to hang out and play, just to see if there was anything we could do, and also what was going on, because it was strangely coincidental, just like the day 2 days before my mother's 80th birthday, and what would have been a few days after my father's 80th birthday, I had to call the fire brigade out to my house because of flooding. That was also very strangely coincidental. And so we anyway, so fast forward to this time, where he came, picked me up, we went over and in his van and went to start the car, and it was flat, and so we had to get his van in the driveway and jump start it, which is also interesting because it was the first time that me and my brother, had worked on vehicles together, with knowing, you know, that there is a mechanics and vehicles gene in the family, and more specifically big vehicles. And we got it started, but that was strangely coincidental. And you know, first the fire engine, strange, and then that. So that was interesting. Then fast forward to some months later, and he again, my brother, he offered to take me round places to look at some vehicles. And another friend of mine compiled a list for me, and off we went. Now I always had in mind the kind of vehicle I wanted, and even down to the age, low mileage, and things working that I needed to work, aside from the obvious. And so off we went, and literally the first thing I saw at a yard, used car yard, was called me, test drive it. It was also the price I had in mind, so I bought it. And that was quite interesting, because then, you know, my brother came out with me to test drive it. We checked it over, you know, with mechanics' minds. We did all the checks. It was really quite interesting, and also reconnected us and everything as well. And we got to discuss things about our childhood and past that we hadn't been able to discuss. And also, coincidentally, there was a time when I met my son, and I met him outside the college where I used to go to college to do engineering, electrical engineering, and so that was strange. And then we went to all the places, you know, I took him around my childhood haunts, because I think it's a good thing to do. You know, my father did it to me, so I took my son round there. I've taken my daughter round so I could show him some things, so he could piece things together with stories I told him. And then we went and visited my brother at the place where he was staying, which was the first time that I've ever visited my brother at anywhere that he'd lived, because he always lived in places a long way away, including Italy. And also that I was able to take my son. It was quite an interesting, coincidental and magical time. So there you go. I did manage to manifest a vehicle, but it took me 10 months. And again, Mercury is now retrograde again. And if I just tie in the second Mercury retrograde, or two wrongs make a right, I had, in the second one, I had my fuses blow. I checked it out, and it turned out to be the kettle. So I tried a kettle that I'd been saving as a spare, which I had been using, and that didn't work. So I tried a kettle that someone had given me, that I kept as a spare. And that didn't boil it anywhere near the temperature I wanted it. And so I used my stovetop kettle, my enamel one, to find that it had rusted out at the bottom. Although not Mercury retrograde in itself, the last one, but involved with the electric kettle saga. So there you go. I managed to manifest what I needed, what I wanted, but it took a passage of time, as it did with my caravan, my house and other things. So, you know, in this age of now, we want it now, sometimes you've got to wait for a passage of time. And during those passages of time, which in my case have been anything from, well, mostly from a year to 2 or 3 years, often with hardship involved before it happens. Now, I don't know if that's me or if that's just the nature of things, because can you really manifest everything you want immediately? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment, have a look at the links below, sign up for something, make a donation if you want to. Thanks to anyone who has made donations, and I'll see you next time. Good luck. Ta-ra.